every time I went down to North Carolina and sit with Ophir and we'd have coffee together, I always looked at Ophir. He was one of my mentors, right? And I always learned something, even if it was about coffee and how little I knew about coffee, right? It didn't have to be about work and life-changing alternate things. It's what is an Americano? To this day, I feel so ashamed I didn't know what Americano was.
It's
But I actually
okay.
shared that story with somebody recently, Ophir, which is funny that nobody knows what an Americano and like the history of it. And I'm so proud to share it now, but I always learn something.
I
So,
think I need to learn what's the history of Americano here. Will you will share with me later? Are
Okay.
we ready to roll?
absolutely.
Sure.
I got my coffee, so I'm ready to go.
Okay. Well, we'll be jealous of you having the coffee.
Not when you hear the type of coffee, then you won't be jealous, but it still works.
Paul is in the room with us today. We thought that we'll talk about teams and building teams. But before we'll go into introducing you, Paul, I wanted to share that, and you know our family a little. So we went this weekend with our youngest son to um, jazz ensemble band. They compete in the Jazz at Lincoln Center as part of what they call the Essential Ellington. It's a big festival of high school kids coming from all over the US to compete against each other. But it's actually really cool. They recognize each other when they play well. So even though it's a competition, it's very fun to watch how the kids embrace each other and validate the talent in the room. So it's really fun to watch. And unfortunately, his group didn't win. Oh,
Mhm.
but they did well. They got recognized for the saxophone section, etc. And as always, Ophir and I have conversations dissecting some experiences that we go through. And the three groups that won, they were like Ophir, right? They were
Fine.
mind blowing. Thank you for that.
Deserved it then, right?
They deserve that. And each director went to the stage and said a few words. And one of the directors really said that at the beginning, it's about learning who you are as as a performer, then understanding since it's a band, it's not just about the individual, it's about how we play together and really understanding how we play and listen to each other and use the word dancing with each other, which I thought was really cool talking about the experience. So uh, this is where we want to take the conversation of what makes the difference between a team that then dances together, win together, and other teams that might be amazing, like my son's ensemble, but something is missing in the ingredients. And maybe many ingredients are missing there. Fear, you want to add something? It was a long
I
context.
think to say what you kind of summarize what you said, I think it's work hard, play hard. These bands, and well, ask Paul in a second on his perspective on this. Every group that wants to be successful needs to work very hard, both on the individual level and as a group. But I think from the jazz experience, the play hard as well, right? They had a lot of fun together,
Yeah.
and it seems like a cycle that when the band is having fun together, they're then willing to work harder, not just for themselves, but then they start working for each other. And it's a cycle that feeds itself if you build it properly in a very positive way. So I think before we just kind of dive into this, Paul, maybe you want to introduce yourself,
Yeah, I
and
can
then
do
you can
that.
take get your take on the work hard, play hard question.
Yeah, that's something my dad taught me too. So yeah, Paul Browning. I'll say I am a father of three. That's why I always kind of prioritize who I am. Father, husband, Marine veteran, Army National Guard veteran. I've been, as you all know and met you, I've been in the IT and cybersecurity industry for well over 20 years, dating back to my early days in the Marine Corps in the 2000s. I've seen and done a lot of different things, worked in a lot of different professions. I think that's what's really helped me on the leadership side. I've seen a lot of really bad leaders. I've seen a few really good leaders. And I've tried to take something that I wanted or did not want to do from all of them. I think that's really helped me in my lifetime. regarding the Jazz, and that's an area that I am very poorly knowledgeable about. I don't know anything about jazz. You sent me the video for it. I was like, I don't think I've ever actually watched a jazz concert in my entire life. I don't think I've seen anything other than what's in movies. But describing the leader you talked about, one thing I can say that I notice in the way you're talking about it is that they're all having fun. They're cheering each other on. There's something to be said about competition, and then there's toxic competition. I've seen toxic competition, especially in football, either both growing up and even in watching the kids, but you see, especially in the artistic, but even in the track world, right? It's more of an individual sport, but everybody's cheering each other on. When they're cheering each other on, then you don't want to let your friends down. So you want to perform because they're all rooting for you, and then you give it back to them. And then it becomes a cycle where everybody's helping and pushing each other. It becomes a dance, it becomes more exciting, it becomes fun, and it drives everybody forward. I'll say that in the jiu-jitsu world, it's very similar. We always say iron sharpens iron. It's a very common term or saying, but everybody pushing each other, it makes everybody better, and it drives everybody better a lot quicker than, everybody just kind of doing the status quo. So I'd say that's probably the one thing that stood out the most.
So how, in your experience, how do you bring this to the cruel business world where if you're in sales, they have their own quota, they need to meet their number, they don't necessarily get impacted by other people's numbers. If you're in a technical role, you have your own domain that you need to maintain, that you need to either develop the code or build a network and make sure that your piece is working. Whether it's a customer success world, which is where you and I met, or again, you have your own portfolio of accounts and you're responsible to your own set of customers. So how do you take in all of those different perspectives, how do you take a group of people that have the same role on paper, but they don't necessarily always have the same aligned responsibilities on the same group of customers or tasks, and make them feel like a jazz band?
Yeah, I would say that's probably why I never became a sales rep. Sales reps are very, very money driven. They're not very team oriented, as you said. But sales engineers, they're money driven. Don't get me wrong. Like, they enjoy making good money, but the way they're paid is different. It's a higher base, lower commission, but they are generally, what I found, is more team oriented people. They want the customer to succeed. They want to succeed. They want to help their team succeed. As long as they're getting paid and they're making good money, they don't care if they're the top, right? They are happy if their team's doing good, because if they're doing good, the team's doing good. And I've generally found that they're willing to help each other out. Sales reps are a little bit different on that, and you have to develop them. I have not led sales reps. I've worked with a lot of them. I've been able to kind of get them on the team concept, but as you said, they're very financially driven. But the engineers that I've led and worked with, I always developed them as a team. And one example would be if one took PTO and took time off, then I would ask another one, hey, can you come in and fill that void and cover for them? Now, they might not want to because they might be part of something that closes a deal, but they also know that when they take PTO, the other person's going to help them. And over time, when they see that, then they end up helping each other, and they just stay in their lane and they root for each other. They might not win all the deals, but someone on their team won the deals. Now they become part of that, and they feel the win, even though they might not necessarily financially feel it. And that becomes part of a culture where it becomes a team-oriented approach. Does that make sense?
I really like your approach, how as a leader we create the experience without us, that we can remove ourselves and the team can do that without us.
100%.
And
Absolutely.
so how do you create that experience to the two of you? How did you create that along your career, that you can remove yourself and allow the team to even hold each other accountable, or focus on winning together rather than winning for my goals?
I know Ophir's got something to add to this. I'll go ahead and say I think your team has to believe that you can do the job and are willing to do the job. So sometimes I would cover in that instance where someone went on vacation. I might cover for them. But what I might do is to try to drive the team effort. It would be to say, hey, can we get somebody to cover? And if nobody would, then I would jump in. And I think by them all knowing I would be willing to jump in, they would actually want to jump in first to say, no, don't worry, I'll take care of that. because I know, Joe, Mike, Bob, whatever, they'll help me later. And again, that cycle kind of feeds itself over time. But that willingness they know that I'm willing to step in and do the work. They know I'm capable of doing it. So they trust in me. But also when I'm asking them, or I ask them to ask each other, they don't want to let each other down. So I think first is just knowing that I can do it. And then I try to drive them to work together.
Yeah, I think so. So Paul is touching on the trust, the mutual trust inside the team. I think what also helps teams is to understand the mutual goal, right? Yes, each one of us we have our own tasks, our own mission within the bigger company, right? And take it to the military, it's the same thing, right? Every soldier, every unit has their own task, but when you're able to see how all those little tasks, all those different pieces are combining to a bigger picture, right? How we as a company, how we as a military, how we as a community are benefiting as a whole from this mission, it's easier to see how your part is more important than just meeting your own personal goals. And then it's creating not just, the trust is one piece, but it's creating the accountability, the desire to kind of to do your part for the group, the contribution that you provide to the group is when you see the impact that is doing beyond just the immediate KPIs, it's a huge driver for people to be willing to go outside of their kind of traditional swimming lanes because they see how it's helping. And you take a little pain now, but you know the gain later, right? You go to the gym, it's not fun, but you know what's coming after. It's the same thing here, right? You do stuff outside of your swimming lanes and you support other activities that are not always 100% just within your swimming lanes. As a collective, it's helping to achieve bigger, like, 1 on 1 equals 5 in if you're doing it right. And it's really important to just make sure that people keep seeing this and see where it's going to take us, kind of looking into the future, sharing the vision, but also going back every time that you achieve something, right? As Paul said, like one of your peers closed the deal, how the way you helped them, how did it impact this and help them be successful, and how what they did help you be successful. So it's creating the collective success and not just the personal success.
And
You hit on something. Oh, go ahead.
And I will take it to the other side when I don't provide what my team members need, or other people on my team don't provide what I need. It can get in our way. It's not about us fighting with each other, but it's about real honest conversation that if we're not accountable to each other, we don't achieve the team's goals, that we cannot win together. Yeah. Sorry, Paul.
100%. Yeah. And something you brought up with fear, and we kind of see this, we know on good teams, everybody knows the mission, everybody knows the KPIs we're measured on and how to get there. Equally, I've seen a lot of bad leaders. Generally, all of them lack having a unified mission that everybody even knows where they're going. And when they don't know where they're going, they just start spinning the wheel and staying in their swim lane, and they seem very, narrowly focused. But just simply having a vision sometimes can help drive things. But it's so crazy how lacking that is in many places.
So I'm curious, you said good team. Well, I know it's the $1 million question, but how do we want to define a good team?
I'll go first. I define it, I guess, in a team that's able to accomplish the mission, or at least are working towards the mission, but they're doing it in a way where people are excited, they're working together, and you're getting more than 100% out of them. You're seeing people that not only are just doing what they're supposed to do, but they're reaching out, they're helping others, they want to do more, they're asking to do more. One of the other indicators I love is people are bringing ideas to the table. And generally when I see people that are saying, hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? And we as leaders have to be open and asking for this information and empowering people to do that. But I see when people are bringing ideas to the table and they're getting listened to and things are happening, they get excited. That raises the bar for everybody. So that's one of my indicators I love to see, just of many out there. On top of some of the other things we're talking
Yeah.
about, now it can be a negative, right? You can have people that have all these ideas, but they're not contributing, and it can be a very negative culture environment. I've walked into some of these where you come in and everybody just thinks they can do it better. So there's a difference
Mhm.
between complaining, this could be better, this could be this, between people coming in and saying, hey, what if we made this one adjustment? I think I could be more efficient, or I think our team could do this better if we adjusted. There's a difference in that. I want to clarify. But
Yeah.
when I see that, usually it's then I see a team driving together.
So those are good indicators. What are the red flags as a leader that you see, and what are the things that you can say, oh,
Yes.
this is progress. We are heading there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the performance or the results is maybe the first layer of a good team, because you can do all those things, Paul, and if you don't get the results, it's hard to define the team as a good team, at least in a business environment. So that's maybe the basic, right? A team that can achieve their goals as a group. But what makes a great team are those things: the collaboration, the innovation, the knowledge, and the feeling that someone got your back, whether it's your leader or your peers, or ideally both,
Mhm.
where then you can take those ideas and try and fail as a group until you find the right thing that works the best for everyone. But it needs to start with kind of achieving your goals. And then on top of this, it's much easier to build. It's harder to build those different ideas and trial and errors in a team that doesn't achieve the results, because then it's creating a lot of tension and a lot of pressure on the team. So it's kind of the egg, the egg in the chick, or the chick in the egg, right? Pick whoever comes first. It's If you don't have good results, it's very hard to build a stronger team. So you need to work on both things in parallel, but make sure that you have a solid ground to build all this trust and collaboration and innovation on top of it.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because when you were talking earlier, I used to say it, that the saying to my team of go break some eggs. She talked a little bit about failure. I try to encourage, and I learned this in jujitsu, was it's okay to fail. In fact, we call failing is learning. You lose in a competition, that's good. How much did you learn? That's when you learn the most. And I would tell the team, go fail, go break some eggs. I want you to push your boundaries. I want you to get better. And by failing, we celebrate it and we learn from it and we get better again. So it's funny you bring that up.
So I want to challenge that, because a lot of times I will hear from leaders where they say, why my team is not failing? Why are they not feeling comfortable to do mistakes? And I ask them, how will they know that they can do mistakes? So how people can know, how can teams know? Because sometimes it's not the leader. It can be, as you said, right? Sometimes things not functioning well, and it can be a member on the team. So what do we do when, someone says, let's allow the team to fail and do mistakes and let's celebrate them? How people know that they are really safe to do that?
I think it goes back to trust. I'll give an instance that I gave a CSM on the customer success team a lot of leeway. I said, I want you to go fail, right? And we had some boundaries of the failures, right? I didn't want you to just go break things, but I want you to try to do things. But one of those was making decisions on your own. I want you to not have to ask somebody for help for everything you do. Just go do it, and then we'll figure it out. And this person, made a mistake. It wasn't a huge mistake, but someone in another department, a sales department, did not like the outcome of how that worked out. So when I say the trust factor, I had to go work with that salesperson. I took responsibility for that, said, hey, we worked on this. This is what's going to happen. This is on me. This was, I took responsibility and did not let the CS person who I gave the runway to make mistakes on fall on that. So I did that. Then I talked to the employee and explained the situation. Here's how we could have done that better. But then also say, hey, I love what you did. You made a decision. It's okay. Like sometimes we make bad decisions, or maybe they're not all agreed upon by other parties. And we worked through it and said, just keep doing it. Keep doing it. So I think when they saw that I was willing to take the accountability for their mistake, then they felt more relaxed to do it. They weren't so scared and rigid. And when they're using people are more relaxed, they actually make better decisions too. So it kind of went full circle, if you will. but it comes down to trust. Now you have to balance that. And that's the hardest thing because they can make really bad mistakes, but that's what we want them to do. We just have to kind of set some boundaries in that.
I love that you add the boundaries. It's the same with delegation. Go and just do that, and then people come back. And it's like, oh, you made a crappy job. But what were the boundaries of go and do that? So that's a very interesting addition that you have boundaries around the go and try and do mistakes or experiment with something.
And another way to do it is go and do it yourself, right? And show them that it's okay to fail. Share your failures with your team.
Yes.
Tell them what you've done and how you failed, and show them it's okay to make the mistake and it's okay to talk about the mistake. Because sometimes people will go and try things and maybe fail, but they're not comfortable and safe enough to come and share it with you. So if you go back and share your own mistakes and show them it's okay to talk about it, it's also building this trust and level of comfort and safety to come and back and share with the team. And it takes a little bit of work at the beginning to build this trust, to build this culture of sharing mistakes and talking about this. But once you get into this cycle and you start building the level of comfort in the team, then it's really making it much easier for people, and new people that come in see that, oh, this is how it's done, it's okay, and they can do it much faster.
Completely agree. I was laughing a little bit because when you were talking about this, you reminded me, I actually tried this with my family once. The kids were maybe 10, 12 years old, and we're sitting around the table, and I heard this, and maybe it was on a podcast or something. It's probably 10 plus years ago. I said, hey, everybody, I want everybody to share something you did today that you failed at so that we can celebrate it. And I want to hear about it. I don't want you to hide it away. And it lasted for a couple of days because, I didn't fail at anything today. It was just like, okay, then that means you need to be pushing harder. So if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. But we did try that experiment. It just didn't go well. So I definitely learned from it in ways that you just mentioned, sharing your own failures.
Yeah, we had the highs and lows around our dinner table for a long time.
Yeah.
It's a similar concept.
Yeah, and by the way, I really love that you started by introducing yourself as a father of three, because a family is also a team.
Absolutely.
And you can definitely see when a family is too competitive and become toxic. So you can see everything that we talk about in the business setting or art setting or whatever, it's also in a family setting.
That's you bring that up and talk about jazz too. And I think about that in the way our family grew up, right? I had my daughter, she was really into horses. She rode horses and she competed. My sons eventually got into football and track. And, with jazz or with horses, not racing horses, but just horses, when you ride around and it's how do you look, how do you ride? And it's very judge decision on who gets first place, who gets last place. So very subjective. And it's you're at the mercy of that judge. And watching that, I think we all learn to both not get upset with the placings or not get hung up on what place they got, but get more hung up on how they did or how they improved. And you're cheering, in this case, my daughter on no matter how she placed. I think we learned that all very early. And then the boys, they kind of went into more goal oriented. There's a clear winner, right? You get the fastest time, you get the highest score. It's easy to cheer for that. But I think because we watched their sister go through it, they've learned to just cheer everybody on no matter how well they did, because it's not always based on their performance or it's a judge's decision. So I think they learned that early on as to cheer other people on, and that kind of built that within the family. I never thought about that till just now, but it makes sense.
Yeah, and it's about learning to cheer for yourself as well.
Yeah.
And sit with that, right? The same way when we fail as a team or as individuals, but we are individuals in teams and we have setbacks and we have celebrations. And how do we, with our mindset, process that and look at that? And especially in spaces like tennis, and that there is a lot of internal conversation with yourself, and the people that are able to take it the extra mile are the people, the musicians as well, right? I didn't hit the note. So in all those more of it individualistic experiences is really to learn how you talk with yourself And I do believe it replicates then to how you learn to talk with other people around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the work hard, play hard. Where do you put the balance between the work hard and the play hard? Like, where is the line of, is there a thing of having too much fun at work?
Having too much fun at work.
Yeah, like, some, again, looking at going back to the jazz band, right? Um, you see some of the musicians on stage, waving their hands throughout the concert. They're playing, one of the trumpet guys, right? He had the trumpet in one hand, in the other hand, he was like waving and kind of getting the crowd to cheer with the band. Is he cheering with the band? Is he cheering for him? Where is this line, right? So same goes in other scenarios. Like, is there a thing of, is having too much fun a thing that we need to be worried about when we tell the team to go and have fun as they work hard?
There can be, for sure. I think if it impacts the overall team, is the fun leading to accomplishing the mission? When the fun deviates from the mission, then it can be a bad thing. Now, does it deviate temporarily to just do I'll give an example. Are we having fun because we're doing team building that, brings them together so that we can get back on the mission? Cool. That works. But is the fun where, hey, we're going out and we're partying all day long, like, yeah, we're still doing our work, but we're not really work focused, then the balance is too much fun. So there definitely can be a line where it can become a negative. But generally, what I see is a high performing team. They know how to have fun while getting the mission accomplished. And they might be out. One person might take their moment on stage, but it's short lived. And then they cheer on the next person who takes their moment on stage. So I think there is a balance. It can sway. But I think when too much work affects the play or too much play affects the work, that's when you start to see that. But I think it ebbs and flows a little bit as you grow.
For me, I think when I listen to you, it's that range. And it could be that the team will go for a moment too far with the fun. And again, it's how do we learn as a team to say, okay, let's come back because we are missing something there and too much playful and less doing the work. And I'm wondering if, the teams that we saw there, the bands that we saw there, they work hard, but they're also having fun together. But I do believe there are moments that there is no fun, right? They were performing and they were giving their 180% for the audience to enjoy what's happening there. But I think there are lots of moments for you to be such a good performer that there is a lot of hard work. There is the rehearsing, there is the not hitting the note and doing it again and again and again, and taking a specific section in the music and repeat, repeat, repeat until you get there. But if you over repeat it, over rehearsing, that again will take you on the wrong direction as a band. I love that analogy between those groups of kids and yeah, I see you there, Paul. Want to say something, so go for it.
There's so much. First thing I'd say is that there's a few times that I've talked to Ophir, and there's not something that's come up about his son training for the jazz competition. He's going to school, and there's a practice. So, like you said, they're working hard. There's so much that people don't see in the background where it's work, they're grinding, they're getting at it. And then what they see is the few minutes on stage and they're all having fun. They're like, it must be like that all the time. But what, again, they don't see is the blood, sweat, and tears, as we used to say. And it's funny because I just was at a jiu-jitsu competition this weekend. My daughter competed and she's up and we're trying to make sure they're relaxed because a lot of times people will tense up and some people will tense up so much they can't think. Their adrenaline's going, they're not having any fun. It's just all business, and then they can't perform. So they forgot to bring the fun. And our daughter was having a little fun. She was even doing a little dance before she went out on the mats to actually compete. And it's like, you should be in a killer mindset right now. She's totally loose. And I think for her, she found that good balance of, work hard, play hard. But when she gets out there, it's all business, but she's having fun in the moment too, because of all that work she put in, just like your son, where, there's so much, again, that people don't see that they're going through it. There's hard days. There might be tears. There might be just a lot of stress. And that's okay because it leads to the fun and they know that. So we got to let them have fun too.
So how do you take the blood, sweat, and tear that happens on the back end, and you as a leader can see it, the rest of the company doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
How can you leverage that in order to get more buy-in across the company to supporting your team? To where is the balance of showing this in a productive way versus showing it in a kind of a whining way? Look at how hard we're working.
Yeah. I think I've learned that lesson is you can't show how hard we're working because everybody just assumes everyone's working hard. So that's not a measurable. It's like saying a customer is happy. That's not a measurable. But I have to, as a leader, champion the wins, and I have to measure those wins and measure the progress. If we're in a grinding phase and we're doing something, generally, we might have a mission, right? We want to get to the moon, for instance, but we've got to build a rocket. We've got to test the engines. We've got to test the heat. We've got to do all these things. But the mission is still to get to the moon. I can't report that we've gotten to the moon if we haven't done these other things. But if people don't know what those steps are and that we're achieving those steps, then I'm failing as a leader, both to my team, seeing what those steps are, how to get there, but also to my leadership and the rest of the company for them to know what our team is working on and how we're getting there. It gets more succinct with the rest of the company and they need to see quickly. But I need to get their buy-in to know that these are the steps to get to the moon and then report on that. But equally to my team, they know they're in a grind. There might be this little sprint phase where, hey, we've got to build the rocket today. We've got to test the engines today. And if we can do that, then they will be very focused. That'll be the blood, sweat, and tears. But again, I have to be able to communicate and champion that across the board as well.
I want to add to that question of fear because for me, it's the same way it happens inside the team, how the executive team making sure that there is that experience across the organization, that we win together in the end. It's not just about Paul's team or your team or my team to get there, but it's how all our teams get to the moon. So for me, it's part of that systemic approach. Are we winning for our department, division, or are we winning as a company or as a community or as a jiu-jitsu organization in that martial arts space? So that's that one. For me, that was missing in the conversation right now.
But this is where again, sharing the vision of how each team's task is contributing to the bigger mission of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If every piece of the organization have a different mission, different task, not everyone, there's only one, right? Like you send them, there was this mission a couple of weeks ago to circle the moon. There are like, I think 4 people in the on the shuttle, but there are thousands of people working behind them. Each one of those thousands of people and probably dozens, if not hundreds of different groups that work within this organization had one piece of a very important task that, if not done well, the whole mission can't work, right? So the same way that if you say, the sales rep is the one that closes the deal, but there is so much work from the engineers on the back end to build the product and from the marketing guys to market the product, right? It's like there are a lot of different tasks that are maybe don't get the same glory from the outside. They're not as visible from the outside, but they're not less important.
Yeah.
100%. If those parachutes don't deploy, it becomes a really failed mission, right? So everybody has a part to play, and equally, especially in the shuttle scenario, one failure in any of those is catastrophic.
Yeah.
So, Paul, I heard that you're also building communities. So, what would you like to share with us about building a successful community?
I can say, well, let me kind of back into some advice someone gave me one time, and then I'll kind of answer that. But I was told once by a mentor of mine that I should always seek to have a mentor. I should always be mentoring somebody, and I should always have a little competition, if that makes sense, so that we always are learning from somebody, we're giving back to somebody, and then we're competing with somebody that drives us forward. And I say that in a community that when I first got involved in the cyber community here in Columbus, Ohio, that there was a budding community, that had been growing, and there was a particular leader in that community, and they call her the godmother, if you will. And that's something that she's always encouraged. So somebody encouraged me to seek her out. And so I sought her out, and she got me involved in the community. And then just like someone paid it forward, hey, this is how you need to get started, then I would find others and I would say, hey, this is what I would do to get started. First, get involved in the community, then let's get involved in the conferences and the monthly chapters. And then I started working with other people, but I also got involved with the chapter specifically, to the point that it was like, all right, it's time to join the board and be official. I did this for probably 10 years. We had one of the largest cybersecurity conferences here in Ohio. It's multiple days. There's like over 1,000, 1,500 people attending. We went through all of COVID with it. It's a very big community here. I would say I'm not the leader of the community. I was part of it. And then that's what's the beauty. There are a couple really big names, but the overall factors that from engineers, sales reps, account managers, but also the practitioners, right? The people that are actually hands-on, stopping and preventing threats, to the risk people, to the CISOs of the world. They're all together in this community. They're all attending this conference, and they all talk to one another. And an example of the mentor side of it, I had a friend of mine that his son runs track with us. His older son's in the cybersecurity, school. How do I get started? Well, first you need to come to this conference. So I paid for his ticket, get to the conference. I introduced him to a few people. And, he's this 20-year-old kid, and he decides to sit in on an executive, briefing. It was open to everybody, but most of the only executives sit there. And he's sitting to a CISO, one of the biggest retailers here in Columbus, Ohio, one that everybody would know the name of. And the CISO just starts talking to him and gets to know him. And they knew each other by name by the end of the conference. And a few times they're walking by and saying hi. And, then they found out that I was a mutual friend of both of them. And it was just great, because what ends up happening in the community, and again, I was brought into this and I tried to give it back, was just the connectivity. It's like jazz. Everybody's cheering for each other. Everybody's working towards a common goal. Nobody's bigger than the moment. Again, it's a very good community in that sense. The toxicity gets rooted out pretty quickly like that.
I always recommend to leaders that want to improve leadership skills to go and volunteer, because when you volunteer as a leader, there is no the carrot and the stick that you have as a leader inside the company. What did you learn about your leadership?
In the community side of it?
Yeah. What did you learn about yourself as a leader in this community?
I learned that I will always put the mission first. An example of this, I kind of picked an area to focus on. One was like building the website, building the apps, and then making sure all the technology works. And then what I also realized was that I can't do it all. And this was a very, very vivid realization, because you have to set everything up and you get about 4 hours to do it. It's midnight, everybody else is asleep, and then you're trying to set up all the rooms and test everything out. So I learned very quickly this can't be done by one person. It has to be done by a committee. And working through some of the others, we ended up having a tech team, if you will. We made that from 3 people to then we were like, we need volunteers during the actual event, because we're running around. We have more steps than we can count on our watches. We need help. So then we started signing people into rooms, and we worked together. And then we had a full tech team of 12+ people. So learning that you can't do it all, you have to rely on a team, even when you're volunteering. You're volunteering, you want to be the hero, but the reality is that being the hero does not mean you have to kill yourself to do the job. It just means you have to work with others to do it better, if that makes sense. So I learned my limitations.
Yeah, I think we learn as volunteers really how we bring people that are not compensated by money to join the mission. And I think this is very interesting learning when you volunteer, to see how you bring people to join you. What's that special thing that you do there that people will sign up to be in the rooms, because they don't get anything from that for that. So what do you think created that ability for you to inspire people to join you, even though they are not compensated for their time and effort?
It's a team effort. So everybody that's on the board, they would know people. And when you're talking to people, you have to say, hey, you should come out and try this. And they say, I don't know how to get started. Such as, the college student I mentioned earlier, I tried to get him to be a volunteer. It's like, hey, you want to get started. You're not a professional yet. Just get acclimated. Just get to know the industry. And maybe you could go pop in and watch a talk or something. Or maybe just by sitting in the room recording them, you get to listen to them all day for free. So they get a little bit of training, they get to meet people, they build a community, and it's not widely, this doesn't widely happen, but one of those tech volunteers, she volunteered for about 3 years. I ended up hiring her as a sales engineer to work for me. She still works for that company. She's got a family, like she's totally grown and done all these amazing things. And it all was because she volunteered and she made connections. So that network that she built and things just worked out, you know? So I think just telling people some of the stories of success they've had, but we know that when they start to receive, eventually they're going to give. So again, by giving to them, they might grow and prosper, but they're going to give back. So it just always pays it forward.
Yeah, it's the peer ripple that we talk about.
Never
It is very cool. And I think just to start wrapping up, the community lesson that I take from here is that obviously, money is important and people go to work because they want to make money and they want to have a lot of it. But without the shared mission and the trust in the people that you work with, and doing it while having fun and finding some joy, neither a community or a commercial business are going to be successful. So it's the same attributes, and the leader in both in a commercial business and in a volunteering-based community needs to bring the same skill sets and drive people in the same way for the same mission.
Right. I agree.
So you are taking us into the key takeaways from the conversation today. So Paul, we have a little thing in the end of the conversation when we wrap up and we just all reflect on the conversation we had and take a moment to share what is the main key takeaway from our conversation today. So Ophir started that.
I covered all the easy ones. Now I need to work hard to get the rest.
Yeah, I mean, the work hard, play hard. I think just you stick on that one topic, that one saying, you can cover so much ground in team building. You know, are we working hard? Are we playing hard? What defines each? If the team's working hard, they're not playing, they might not be a team. If they're playing all the time, they're working, they might not be a successful team. So there's a balance between all that, but it also takes a good leader to drive their mission, bring them all together and have them singular focused on what needs to happen, but do it in a way where they can accomplish and grow individually as much as a team. That's what I got.
No, wrap it up with yours.
I really liked when Paul talked about the boundaries, when communicating with his people about the boundaries when you fail. I think sometimes talking about mission, when we send people on mission or the purpose of what and why we're doing what we're doing, we're missing that part of the boundaries, and we send them on to fail, but really fail in a way that is not serving them. So how do we send people to fail while feeling successful with that? I know it sounds a little silly.
Successful failure.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Successful failure.
Yeah, successful failure. So do really well when you fail, but in a way that you can come back and learn from that. So for me, adding that boundaries piece, and I think it goes to other spaces with leaders and teams. That's my biggest takeaway from today. So thank you for that, Paul. And definitely, I just want to add, listening to you, that you're a wonderful influencer. Just listening to people, see where are their strengths, and allowing them to grow and develop, whether if it's in the community, whether if it's in the jiu-jitsu or in company setting or with your family. So you really try to feel where are those people's strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And invite them to see something that they might not be able to see yet, and open the door for them to, the crack to pay attention and go that path with boundaries.
Yeah.
So,
Isn't that one of the greatest rewards of the leaders when you see someone crack through that door and then they just evolve into this person that you knew they were, that they didn't actually see it yet? It's definitely one of the most rewarding things.
Absolutely.
And I always say that's a mature leader. So thank you for the opportunity to spend this morning with you. Definitely, I don't need my coffee anymore after this conversation. Feel very
I do.
energized. You do?
I still
Okay.
do.
So go make the coffee.
Yeah,
Buddy.
cool.
Paul, thank you so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate you.
It's great to
Thank you.
meet you as well, and great to see you again, Ophir. Hope to see more
Yeah,
of you.
we hope that you didn't suffer too much.
No, it was fun. Thank you for this.
Let's
Cool.
make the P ripple. Let's keep
All right,
going.
let's
Yeah.
do it.
Cheers.
Thank
Cool.
you all, and good luck to you.
Thank you for listening. If something stayed with you, don't hesitate to share with a peer, with your team, and just have a good conversation. We are missing the space to take time to listen and reflect and learn with other people. So follow us, subscribe, share. It can help us make sure that we create the right information for you and your circle. Until next time, cheers.